Okay.
Okay. Again, it's been a pretty good week on the COVID front. Numbers are continuing to go down, hospitalizations are continuing to go down. Um, you know, from yesterday to, oh, sorry, I think I need to do that. Is that better? Okay. Yeah, numbers are continuing to go down, hospitalizations are continuing to go down. Um, that number admitted to ICU and ventilated is still pretty constant. But again, that's a combination of things. That's people kind of working their way through the system. People who've been getting sick over the last sort of month or so, but also Ontario continues to accept some patients from Manitoba who are acutely unwell into our hospitals, and so some of those numbers reflect patients coming in from Manitoba. Um, and so, it was amazing to me the last couple of days to see numbers under 500. Like, just absolutely
Yeah.
warmed my heart. Um, and vaccination rates as well. So I think we're up to about 65% of Ontario's entire population being having at least one dose, and about 9% of Ontarians having two doses. So that was really exciting news as well. Um, Reopening on Friday. So phase one got moved up a couple of days from the 13th to the 11th. And what that's going to mean is outdoor gatherings of up to 10 people. Um, that's still physically distanced, masked if you're not with people from within your own household. It's the total number of people gathering are 10. Also, outdoor dining in groups of up to four, and non-essential retail being opened at 15% capacity. So that's a step in the right direction. Cautious, which I think is wise, but still movement, because we are seeing those metrics looking better. Um, I guess the one sort of cautionary sort of note that's kind of out there right now is the rise of something that they're calling the Delta variant. I think I maybe made reference to that last week, but I think it's starting to sort of play out on more people's radar this week than it was last week. So the Delta variant has been identified in every health unit in Ontario. Um, and it is well known to be more transmissible, which means it's more contagious, more easily spread, and also does tend to make people sicker. So, like the variants that are out there right now, there's about a 2.5 time greater likelihood of needing to be hospitalized if you get this particular variant rather than the original COVID. So maybe just a bit of a refresher on what these variants mean. So viruses have proteins on the surface, and different kinds of viruses have different kinds of proteins on their surface. And the proteins make it easier, or I guess more challenging, for that virus to interact with our own cells and do what it needs to do to replicate. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that a virus wants to do is make more of itself. That is its only purpose for living, is to make more of itself. So viruses can be pretty cunning. And so if our immune systems start to recognize a particular kind of virus because we have built up antibodies to it, sometimes the viruses will evolve, and our bodies don't necessarily recognize the new viruses that have evolved. And that's kind of what those variants are. They look a little bit different to our bodies than the original variants do. So but the variants have some proteins on their surface that are similar to the ones on the original virus as well. And so if our bodies are good enough at recognizing those proteins, then we can still mount an immune response to these variants. But it may not be as strong and as robust as it would have been to the original virus. So the Delta virus is pretty cunning, pretty cagey, quite contagious, tends to make people sicker. Um, and so it looks like with the preliminary data that the Pfizer vaccine, if you've had one dose, is about 33%, 30 to 50% effective at reducing COVID infection with the Delta variant. The AstraZeneca one is probably, with a single dose, is maybe about 30% effective at preventing infection with the Delta variant. Doubly vaccinated people, however, with the Pfizer vaccine are probably about 90% protected. And with the AstraZeneca vaccine are probably about 65% protected. I wasn't able to find any data for the Moderna vaccine, unfortunately, this week with regards to the Delta variant, but it's something I'll look into. So what that emphasizes more than anything else is the importance of getting people doubly vaccinated as soon as possible. And so there has certainly been conversation about getting accelerated second doses to the communities that are hardest hit by the Delta variant. So those are some communities in Toronto, Peel, especially the places where COVID took off originally are also being harder hit by the Delta variant. And so it's a cautionary tale in the sense that because it is because it is more contagious and because it makes people sicker and because the first dose of the vaccine is maybe less effective against this variant, we need to continue with all of the recommendations from public health in terms of reducing the risk of transmission until more people have their second dose. But again, we're just at the very beginnings of this, and so the hope is that as the second doses roll out and as more and more people are getting doubly vaccinated, and if we can sort of continue to follow the public health measures, that a fourth wave with this variant may be avoidable, or at least something that we can minimize and flatten. So that's the cautionary sort of tale this week. That's sort of in the background, but in the midst of a lot of good news, I think it's really important that people just kind of not let their guard down, right? Like this isn't over yet. There's still a lot of work to be done, getting second vaccines to people that are vulnerable, to people that are in vulnerable communities, and also just to continue to hold the line with regards to public health recommendations with masking and social distancing and hand washing. So lots to celebrate, but it's important to just be reasonable and be calm and not pretend that this thing is gone forever, right? We're still in a fragile recovery, I guess is probably what I would say at this point.
Well, so the second dose, we got lucky, and they're moving our second dose ahead.
Mm-hmm.
A month and a half from now. It's going to be like less than 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
But until then, that new variant, or I guess it's been around for a while, variant is pretty risky, isn't it?
It is risky, but it's not really prevalent right now, right? And so it's not, like it's still only 411 cases of COVID right now, right? Mm-hmm. And so, and it is a percentage of those cases. It's not all of those cases, right? And so a percentage of those cases are the variant, but it has been located everywhere, right? And so it's not that there's huge numbers right now, but the risk is that it could become that way, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Jackie and I were in the city today, and we see an ophthalmologist, and there's nobody and walking around in the streets. There's just like, it's still shut down. There's no eating on the sidewalks or anything like that. That starts on Friday. But what would it be if we went out with another couple that's not in our bubble, then you're not sitting 6 feet away. You're only sitting like 3 feet away, and you can't wear a mask. But what are you supposed to do? Wear a shield, or just not do it, or wait until the thing goes by?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about sort of like dining in groups of four outside, right? And so, those are not no risk activities, right? But there are a lot of things about that activity, especially if people are singly vaccinated and you're outside, then that does reduce the risk of transmission. It doesn't eliminate it completely, but it does reduce the risk. right? So it's always it's a balancing act when it comes to the reopening in terms of balancing um, economics and
Yeah.
and health, right? Last summer, when patios were opened and those kinds of things, we didn't see a sudden dramatic rise in the cases of COVID. That is something that happened sort of gradually and slowly over the course of the fall and into the winter, as waves of viral infections tend to do, right? So you know it's everybody has a different kind of risk tolerance for that sort of thing, right? Um, Part of it is also having really sort of good open conversations with the people that you're dining with in terms of are they vaccinated, and who are they interacting with, and do they have symptoms, and what are their approaches to those kinds of things. Like those are conversations that I think people are having in relationships now that we never would have had a year and a half ago. But it's good to understand what your risk of exposure is.
Well,
Most restaurants will also keep, lists of contact information and email addresses and telephone numbers, so that if COVID-19 cases are identified, then there can be contact tracing done.
our 4-person dining is going to be with Zoom or FaceTime for a while at least.
That'd be an option.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although if the Montreal Canadiens do win, we could have an exception. So there is that, and it's coming.
Yeah.
Toronto.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I've driving through downtown Burlington, seeing them putting up the pylons in the street, sort of people getting ready to get patios out and that sort of thing. It's people are excited for this, and so that's why it's important to keep cool heads, right?
Yeah.
In addition to
Is that the at least the good restaurants, like small restaurants owned by small people, they worked really hard to be safe because they want to stay open. They don't want an outbreak. They don't want people getting sick. So that was what we found at places that were family run, and they were trying.
Yeah, and again, those restaurants are all still open for takeout, and you can go in and get your meal and bring it home, which is a really great way of supporting those businesses as well, even if you're not comfortable going and sitting on the patio. Yeah, they are doing everything. I agree with Carolyn that they're doing everything that they can to make this as safe as possible, and to give people a good experience and to stay afloat in really, really, really hard times.
Yeah. You and I'll keep eating together.
Yeah. So again, it's cautionary when it comes to the Delta variant, right? And I don't think that it's something that it's not a catastrophe, but I think it's something that is people who are sort of making these decisions are trying to be mindful of the presence of that variant in Canada now, and what that might mean for the next little while. Vaccine supply continues to get more secure. A lot of people are moving up their second doses, to be able to do it a few weeks after their first instead of, months and months and months. And so that's just absolutely fantastic. And, I think it's millions and millions and millions of doses that are coming over the next kind of 2.5 months into the country. This is all good news.
It's really good news. Yeah.
Lifting.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, enjoy the weekend. It's going to be beautiful.
Yes, not going to be hot.
It is much nicer outside. Like, seriously, take a walk outside and see if it's better and you can handle it, because I'm amazed right now. It's really
the breeze is nice.
Yeah.
Even here in Burlington, it's not the breeze is nice. It's keeping the humidity off a little.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Thank you, Anna.
Take care. Bye.
Yeah.
Nice to see you, Anna. Bye, guys.
Bye.